Session. May I invite Shri T.R. Dua. Please come on the stage, sir. Shri V.J. Christopher, who is the guest of honor, Wireless Advisor, Department of Telecom. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a big hand. He is our guest of honor. My request, General Kochar Sahab, Director General COI, come on the stage. Mr. Amit Marwa, CMO Nokia, please come on the stage. Amit ji. Ravi Gandhi, President, Regulatory Reliance Jio. Then we have two speakers who will be joining us online. Dr. Isam from the 3GPP and Ms. Eva from Telefonica, Germany. May I request Amit Marwa ji to Amit Marwa ji. Okay, I request Brigadier Sanjay Rawal from Signals Indian Army. Brigadier sir, please come on the stage. As everybody says, spectrum, spectrum, he is the one who has to give us the spectrum. Brigadier sir, please come. Amit ji, please come. So, before we start the hot discussion on the inaugural session, discussion on 6G, may I request Christopher sir to light the lamp along with other distinguished speakers.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada.
Thank you, sir. India is already looking beyond the adoption of 5G technology to develop and deploy its faster and superior successor, the sixth generation of telecom network, so-called 6G. The Bharat 6G vision is out. We are the 2030. So we have enough time to discuss the 6G ecosystem in India. May I request Shri T.R. Dua ji, Director General, DIPA, which is called DIPA. He changed the name from earlier, from the Tower Association. Sir, to give the welcome speech. Shri Dua.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank the organizer for giving me an opportunity to address such a august panelist. I think, Shashi, you're playing a game with me, looks like. Nonetheless, I'm glad that I get this opportunity. This is a panel, I think, comprised of very, very high-flying and people who know the subject. Thank you very much for being there. I'll just quickly give a short brief. First of all, this welcome address or network is the network evolution beyond 5G and India's vision for 6G. If you look at every decade, the world bears witness to yet another highly improved generation of technologies, wireless technologies, that changes the way the future of communication is perceived. Each new generation provides an almost disruptive impetus to the state of technological advancement. It spearheads the societal change and leaves the world wondering if we have truly understood how limitless communication technology could be. Further, mobile wireless communication have, without a doubt, transformed the lives of people and the global economy over the last 3 decades. Wireless technology harnessed the power of internet to morph the daily lives of the people and intertwine them into a digital world. From the first generation of analog technology to the 5th generation of wireless broadband technology, having seen this evolution right from 1994, early 1994 to date, I think it's a great evolution. The advancement of seamless network has made accessibility and affordability well within the reach of the common people. The result can be seen in India too, which went from a country, if you look back, of 20 million landlines in 1998 to more than 1 billion mobile telephone subscribers today, with over 85% of the subscribers having broadband connectivity irrespective of their location. With this, I think if you recollect, on 1st October 2022, the Honorable Prime Minister of India launched and flagged off the official launch of the 5G services in India, thereby putting India into the map of being a 5G-enabled country. No more laggards. While the rollout is still in progress, it is expected to proliferate to every nook and corner of the nation by, say, early 2025. The arrival of this next generation of network is highly welcome, and we do anticipate to become a catalyst in realizing the digital value of across the country. Within just 200 days, we have been able to launch 5G in 600 districts, and with almost close to 150,000 BTSs. Every day, technology is evolving. Computers are getting faster, cars are getting smarter, and communications are more accessible than ever. With this, I don't think I'll take time because I like to leave this with our friends on the panel, just by closing this by saying 6G requirements are huge. There will be increase in mobile computing requirement. Maybe they need to relook at the battery size. 5G has been designed to achieve 20 Gbps peak data. 6 Gbps, if I understand, would have peak of around 1000 Gbps with a user experience of 1 gigabits. Latency targets which have been set are far lesser than what 5G expects. And recently we have witnessed a dramatic rise in wireless data traffic, which has been brought forth by the numerous exciting technologies in wireless and assisted by the pandemic impact. This exponential growth has been accompanied by the demand for higher data rates, better coverage. Even as the 5G rollout continues worldwide, leading research consortiums and mobile companies are busy working on their 6th generation mobile connectivity. 6G network aims to connect physical and virtual worlds through faster M2M communication and better support for immersive technology. Organizations, institutes would know about the working and importance of 6G network to prepare for the future and fully use the wireless infrastructure available. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dua Sahab. Now, may I request Dr. Ihsan, who is on the line, who is the Director of 3GPP Mobile Competence Center. Ihsan, are you there?
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much. Hello and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Issam Tufik, the Director of the 3GPP Mobile Competence Center in ETSI. And it is truly a pleasure to give this introductory address today in 6G India. This event, together with many other initiatives taken by India and the Indian government, show the great work and effort put to put the country in the forefront of developing the emerging technologies like 5G, 5G Advanced, and 6G. And one of the aspects of this effort and this work is collaborative cooperation and collaborative work in the international level, and more specifically, this is one domain I come from, which is the standardization. And I would like to put here a little emphasize on the great work done in cooperation at the standardization level of cellular systems. And I would like to mention here the great collaboration going between TSDSI, the Telecommunications Standard Development Society India, and ETSI, which is the European Telecommunications Standards Institute. There has been a cooperation agreement signed between the two institutions back in 2014. This agreement allowed TSDSI to adopt and publish ETSI standards, and also allow ETSI to adopt and publish TSDSI standards. Both organizations are also partners in the 3GPP. 3GPP is the organization responsible for developing the standards for 5G and hopefully for 6G as well. Since it joined in 2015, TSDSI has transposed and published about 1,500 specifications produced by 3GPP. And these specifications has then been sent to the Telecommunication Engineering Center, Department of Telecommunications, for their adoption as a national standard. So 3GPP is where work in 5G is happening. And before we start, and I start talking about 6G, I would like just to take a moment to see where we stand in terms of standardization of 5G. Currently, 3GPP is actively working in release 18 of the standard. This is the first release of the 5G Advanced. And this year going to be a very, very busy year, because in addition to completing the work in release 18, 3GPP will be looking also on defining the content of release 19. And I put here in this slide, as you could see, in June next month in Taipei, we will have the 100 TSG of 3GPP, which is in itself a big achievement. But we will also have release 19 workshop where the content of that release will be being defined. The timeline for the completion of release 18 is the end of this year. So by December, release 18 should be frozen for the functional side, and then for the codes in March 2024. And work will then start in release 19 with a timeline to finish this release by September 2025. Release 19 is not expected to address 6G. It's going to be 5G and 5G advanced only. The first release expected to start studying 6G will probably be release 20 for the study work, and then maybe release 21 for the normative work. We're looking at 5G in terms of deployment. According to GSA, there have been around 250 networks commercially launched around the world, but only 40 out of these 250 are standalone. So we are still a little bit behind in the standalone development, which is the full 5G package. This is not what we had initially expected. We were expecting a much faster launch of standalone 5G. When it comes to India, as have been mentioned earlier by the previous speaker, and as we could see in the announcements, we see a very fast deployment since the launch in 2022 with new 5G networks in many cities and many towns. So when looking at where we stand on the standardization and the fact that at least for the coming couple of years, there will be no standardization work in 6G, and we're looking at the deployment, one may legitimately ask, is it time to start talking already about 6G? And the answer is yes, because there is a requirement for more time, or it takes time for ideas to mature from research to standardization. Governments need time to develop and funds for helping these research activities and for this project to mature enough to be able to make it to the standardization work. It takes time to develop a vision and a consensus about what the next generation should be. And all this work on research and trying to develop a vision has given birth to many initiatives across the globe and in the different regions. So specifically for India, we saw that the Technology Innovation Group on 6G has constituted 6 task forces to deliberate on various aspects of emerging telecom technologies and platforms in the next decade. The government of India has released the BHARAT 6G vision document prepared by this TIG6 group. So all this work across the globe, as I said, is taking place by different parts, but what comes out of it is more of a consensus view on what the 6G should be like. So even though we don't know yet exactly how 6G in terms of technology or use cases will clearly be, but at least there are a few trends that start to emerge based on this work. So we from the different white papers, from the different presentations, we see that 6G is more about merging the physical, the human, and the digital world. We know that there will be more intelligence in the network in order to better use the available resources and provide the best service to the customers. We talk about secure by design, so more security. Sustainable also by design, so talking about energy efficiency of the network, but also what 6G will help the industries achieve on terms of sustainability. So there are many trends, as I mentioned, that emerged in terms of use cases and in terms of characteristics of 6G, but there is also some trends that start to emerge in terms of what technology 6G will be about. So we are talking more and more about terahertz communications. We are talking about reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, integrated non-terrestrial and terrestrial networks, et cetera, et cetera. And I would like just here to mention that some of this work in pre-standardization already started in some areas, and in ETSI, for example, we already have some work ongoing on terahertz communications and reconfigurable surfaces. So the question again that we may ask, looking at all these different initiatives popping up around the globe in different regions independently, is there a risk of fragmentation? And probably history here give us some answer, because similar things happened with 5G. At the early days of 5G, we saw initiatives and activities happening in different regions, but this did not prevent 5G to be a global standard. I believe that this stage there is consensus within the technical community. There is a consensus within the industry that 6G also needs to be a global solution. Industries do not want to start having different chains or production lines for the different 6G solutions. Customers do not want to go back to the early days of cellular communications where we had to change phone every time we had to go to a different country. So for both industries and customers, 6G would need to be a global standard again. And I believe there is consensus on this. And hopefully we will also see that at the political level, and we see that the geopolitical situation is with us for a few years to come. And hopefully this will not prevent 6G to be a global standard. With such a positive, hopefully positive note, I would like to conclude this introductory address by thanking the organizers again and wishing 6G a very bright future. And in the coming 2 days, we will be hearing a lot about 5G deployments, but also what 6G hopefully will bring as improvements for both industries and customers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ihsan. Now may I request our guest of honor, Sri Vijay Christopher, Wireless Advisor, Department of Telecom, Ministry of Communication, to address the gathering. Sir.
Very good morning, and distinguished speakers on the podium, delegates who are participating from academia, R&D, startup, and other government participants, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be here for this 6G event that we are organizing for this 2 days conference to discuss the regulatory, technical, and other aspects of 6G and discuss in detail about the opportunities and challenges that lay ahead towards the realization of 6G. We hope that out of these deliberations, this conference would be able to give us some recommendations that can act as a takeaway for all the stakeholders. As you know, this global harmonization and standardization of telecom technologies take place under the aegis of ITU, International Telecommunication Union, for the development of ICT. In the year 2020, ITUR has come out with a framework called IMD 2020, which gradually developed into a 5G that we are seeing today. The work is in progress and innovations are going on in ITU for the next generation of IMT, which is named as IMD 2030. And we hope that that will evolve into the 6G that we are talking today. WRC, World Radio Conference, is the apex body of ITUR, which revised the radio regulations, which is a document that governs the use of radio spectrum as well as the satellite orbital resources. So the 39th edition of WRC is going to happen in this year. In October, November this year. And we are hopeful that it will decide on some of the spectrum bands for the 6G, among other radio communication services. And also, this will decide the study cycle for the different applications and services in the next 4-year cycle, that is 2024 to 2027 until the next WRC 2027. So these phases are very critical for the development of 6G. From the government perspective, I would like to brief about the spectrum, what we are doing with the spectrum. As you know, in WRC 19, they have identified the spectrum for 5G, which government has cleaned and auctioned in the year 2022. So we have 5G, especially that band 3300 to 3700 megahertz, as well as the band millimeter wave band, popularly called, from the 24.25 gigahertz to 27.5 gigahertz. So this is already in place. As you know, as is already stated that 6G is an evolution of 5G. So this band also will come into play. Apart from that, some of the other activities regarding spectrum, I will just briefly tell you. For further expansion of IMT and 6G, additional IMT spectrum in the higher frequency ranges, that is from 37 to 43.5 gigahertz, 47.2 to 48.2 gigahertz, and 66 to 71 gigahertz bands are being also planned while taking care of the existing service. Also, government is also in the process of making available V-band and E-band. V-band is from 57 gigahertz to 66 gigahertz, and E-band is from 71 to 76 gigahertz and 81 to 86 gigahertz spectrum. We have also sent a reference in August 2022 to the TRI for recommendation regarding the assignment of E and V band. Also, you may be aware that on an interim basis, government has allocated 2 carriers of E-band of 250 megahertz for all the TSPs who has who is holding access spectrum in the IMT bands in the LSAs. DOT has also decided to open up a radio spectrum in terahertz band beyond 95 gigahertz for experimentation. A reference has also been sent to TRAI for providing recommendation on these terahertz bands. This would provide impetus for local manufacturing and development of use cases in the higher frequency band, as terahertz is going to be a critical band for the 6G. And apart from that, the mid-band, 1 to 7 gigahertz, which is most critical, which provides good coverage and capacity. DOT is also working on further identifying new spectrum for IMT in this mid-band. And you may recall that, most importantly, DOT has already simplified the process of experimentation of any spectrum band in the year 2019, for ease of doing R&D. So this band is available, R&D or any testing experiments can be done just by paying 5,000 rupees to the DOT per year. In the ITU calendar for 6G, Working Party 5D has already released ITU report on the future technology trends of terrestrial IMT systems towards 2030 and beyond in November 2022. Also, works are underway for the development of recommendation of IMT framework for 2030 and beyond in the same Working Party 5D. Now, this Working Party 5D is expected to ramp up its major works towards its objective from the 45th meeting of, which is scheduled in the year 2024, where it will be considering the critical technical specification requirement and evaluation criteria that is going to come from next year onwards. DOT is now taking a constructive and collaborative approach by involving industry, TSPs, academia, research institutions, etc., to identify the key areas of work and build a synergy to innovate, create IPR, standardize, contribute to global standard, create specification and technical regulation. As a big facilitator, DOT is there. You must be knowing that recently DOT has a technology innovation group on 6G, TIG, has brought out a vision document for 6G. That roadmap, vision document gives a roadmap for 6G in India. They have commented in that report. 6G will build upon 5G technology and provide more reliable, ultra-low latency and affordable solutions 100 times faster than 5G. These advances will impact not just user experience, but also transform economies and lives everywhere. India must focus on aligning its research on technologies that would propel the implementation of 6G in India in highly customized manner. India will have to identify priority areas for research by involving industry, academia, service providers, spanning simulation studies, POC, prototypes, demonstration, and early market intervention through the startups. The TIG has also identified the focus areas for research. They have given recommendation for that. Also, TIG has recommended the need for gigabit Wi-Fi spectrum in the 5.925 to 6425 megahertz band for offloading the indoor traffic and complementing 6G effectively. These are taken from their recommendation of innovation group on 6G. While concluding, I would like to list out the two strength, rather advantages for India. One is the soft power, and the second is software power. Soft power, it comes by virtue of its culture, religion, music, movies, and things like that. We can diplomatically use it for the international participation for these conferences all everywhere. We can drive the agenda using that. Second thing is software power that you should know. You may know that we are considered one of the superpower in software. I think we should leverage these two concepts as the digital twins for the favorable 6G outcome for India in the next coming, I think, 5-6 years. When 5G non-standalone case came up, it was a upgradation of 4G. Rather, it was a software very lavishly used. It was kind of a software upgradation with less hardware. Similarly, we have the strength in software. Can we drive that development into that area while doing R&D or doing experimentation in this working party 5D, which is going to take a call? But it is also vital that at every meeting from next year onwards of this working party 5D, we should be able to come out with contributions of substance from the R&D and startup. And we should be ready with the simulated prototype at each meeting of this 5D where it matters, so that we can influence in delivering a 6G which is India-specific and for the globe. We should not stand alone. We should not do any pre-standardized things. We should move along with that. Then only we can make it for the whole world. And this TIG has specifically, the keyword they are saying in their recommend is highly customized manner. We will have to focus our research. If we can succeed in this mission, then we can take it up in this 3GPP or whatever this thing, we can come out with our model. I would like to thank the organizers of this event for this invitation and wish all success for this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for highlighting from the wireless department of the Ministry of Communications how the 6G should be. Now, ladies and gentlemen, where the spectrum is lying. So most of the spectrum is with Army, right? The defense. So I request Brigadier Sanjay Rawal, who's from the signals from the Indian Army, to give his talk, what they are going to do on the 6G. Thank you, sir. Brigadier Sanjay Rawal.
Good afternoon, everyone. I firstly thank the organizer, Shashi, from the BHARAT Exhibitions, for having firstly organized this event, important event, and given this opportunity for us in the Defense Forces to speak. Normally, the Defense Forces are not part of these conversations, discussions, and it's a unique opportunity he is given, and thank you very much. And the panelists which we have today, I feel I'm amongst the top-notch giants of this particular field. And I, with my humble background, am part of the panel. So it's a privilege. And more than that, it's a privilege for me to have my ex-Signal Officer-in-Chief, General Co-Chair, in the panel. So it's a unique privilege for me. What in this particular discussion we are having is the network evaluation beyond 5G and India's vision for 6G. It's an important topic where we are thinking ahead and talking about the vision. Where exactly do we pitch in as armed forces, defense forces? And this is what I'll be covering. This particular photograph which we see, the slide which we see in front of me, is Habba Khatun. A folklore, you Google, it is in the Gurez Valley. To reach Gurez Valley, you have to cross the Razdan Pass. Razdan Pass is closed for about 6 to 7 months in a year. And there is a Peer Baba ki mazar wahan pe. Every vehicle which crosses that Razdan Pass stops. So reaching this beautiful place where this Habba Khatun peak, which we are seeing, is next to the Kishanganga River. And 2 years back, when I was there, we had a single RR of 2 MB, which was extended to this particular place by about 8 hops. And for the civil populace, we just had 2 channels on a satellite link. And today, I just visited this place last year. It is a wonderful place where I had the TSP, my mobile was working in that place. So we must take pride in this, where the TSPs have extended to these places, where the DOT has reached out, provided these political provisions. As we go along this Kishanganga River, there's a subsector called Neeru Barav Chakwali, NBC subsector we call it. And ahead of this NBC subsector, Neeru Barav Chakwali, is a small place called Abdullah. It's a village of about 75 people there, not less than that. And in this particular place, we had an occasion where a report of some infiltration group came in. And how I relate, what is the vision? And I feel thrilled that we are having a particular time where 5G is getting rolled out and we are talking about 6G. I feel thrilled. Because in that particular operation when we had, we were so many things had to be coordinated. As a commanding officer of a signal regiment, I was sitting in the exchange for about 4 to 5 days. We were supposed to be coordinating the cordon of 5 battalions of the locations which we were not sure. The guns which had to open fire was trying to coordinate where is the FLOT, the forward line of troops, so that we don't have a fratricide. And in this, there was so much of pressure of giving back the information to the control headquarters, where they wanted real online things. Now, what is promised in the 6G? That tactile internet, the ubiquitous communications. Wonderful, wonderful. I am thrilled. I am thrilled to have this particular thing. The issue which is important, there's a key difference between today's networks and the future networks is what? It is totally based on entire new technologies. What we're getting, totally new technologies. And where is the challenge? The challenge is we have to be interoperable with the current generation of networks. This is a challenge. So when 6G is an abstraction, and as defense forces, we were looking ahead. How do we go ahead? This wonderful book, The Great Tech Game, we must have heard about the great game. Each line of this particular, the deeper you look into past, the further you look into the future. Technology is the new wealth of nations. We are going to experience 20,000 years of technological change in the next 100 years. Success determined by ownership of infrastructure, technologies, code, and data. Geopolitics of technology Silk Roads. Now, next, important. Control and ability to defend one's network and damage those of the opponents. Extremely potent in case of future escalation of conflict. Along with the military might, go back, look at the World War. Communication and communication intelligence and decryption. You must have heard about Enigma. Enabled American and the British to win the world wars. Today, Internet is making rivalries more volatile and cyber attacks too easy to carry out without waiting for diplomacy to do its job. While we talk about the future, the development, and the progress which the country is going to make, the security of the nation is of paramount importance. We cannot forget this. The messenger gods of battle, Tony Devros. Now, radio, radar, sonar, these were wonderful things. These were wonderful things when we fought the Second World War, and we continued for some period of time. But as we are going ahead, the digital war, this book written by Winston Ma, is how China's technology power shapes the future of AI, blockchain, and the cyberspace. What are the future was likely to happen? This book, The Last War, by Praveen Sahni, he says the war will be swift. It will finish in next 8 to 10 days. Whereas the other book, Salami Slicing, is how exactly is China doing the way what it is doing. A different concept. So, making sense of different views, how do we relate? How do we relate 5G? And this is a statement, there's a war going on over 5G. And they say it's not a conspiracy theory. Good thing, 1994, Huawei was a minor domestic player selling switches for telephone networks. And its founder, Ren Jingji, met China's leader, Jiang Zemin. Ren, a former engineer with the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, who went into consumer electronics, played the patriotic card, cautioning Jiang that this is important for all of us. Switching equipment technology was related to national security, and that a nation that did not have its own switching equipment was like one that lacked its own military. A quarter century later, 25 years, today, other countries led by the US have belatedly grasped the wisdom of Ren's remarks. The technology in question today is 5G, and Huawei's equipment that they regard as a danger to their national security. They're regarding it as a danger to their national security. Chip war. There's another interesting book. While the chips are being made in a particular place, other countries are trying to reach out. But the chip manufacturing machine is being made in one particular country. To get that is a challenge, and it is a national level challenge for all of us. How do we go into this? The issue is semiconductor technology is going leaps and bounds, and what Mr. Christopher has covered, what the previous session covered, academia is doing a wonderful work. I'll not comment on that presently because I have not seen it yet. But these are the challenges which are there. So, as we're talking, the 6G arms race has already started off. From a military point of view, what are we looking at? The world is breaking apart literally and metaphorically. From a climate point of view, all tanker-sized chunks of polar ice are disintegrating into an unprecedented rate. Tribalism is resurgent. Supranational bodies like EU, NATO are under threat. Identity politics are rife. It's a fact of matter. The telecom industry is witnessing its own breakup after a long period of globalization that culminated in development of single international 5G standard. The first 5G standard is live. The real danger is what comes after 5G. And this is the question we debated. The ETSI, he covered in his talk just 2 talks before. In the morning it was covered. The geopolitics is impacting. So the world has had several competing standards before, but not amid the levels of hostility, protectionism, security-related anxiety that exists today. Political leaders have bought into the idea that 5G is the most important technology of the 21st century, raising the stakes even higher for 6G. So, as a proud Indian, as a proud person in uniform, how will the 6G roll out? Now, you see this particular foil in front of you. It's interesting. It's interesting. The network, those flashy lightning symbols which we have. Network is going to be the glue, where we're going to have various platforms, the various data, and various time frames. And whatever we talk about in 5G and slowly propagating over to 6G gives us tremendous opportunity in various use cases. You name a thing, I got a use case in it. You see this valiant soldier in a Sikh turban. He's a soldier in a system. I got 10 use cases for him. We see the guns. We got guidance systems. We got loitering munition system. We see a drone. The present war which is taking place in Ukraine, there are a number of use cases. So how does it roll out? Before rollout, this is a photograph of 2014, J&K, where the floods came. And everything came to a standstill. Everything came to a standstill. I still remember the Corps commander there. He is saying, thanks to the MCCS mobile cellular communication system, we were at least able to get through and speak to various persons. So, this is a challenge for all of us. We talk about the ubiquitous. We talk about the edge. We talk about the mobile communication right at the edge. How do we do it? And this is what we need to cater for. War fighting in mid-2030s. How will it roll out? We'll have intelligence swarms. We'll have a cross-domain mobile warfare, AI-based space confrontation, and cognitive control system. The cognitive word, the intelligence. Now, lot of battlefield information. This information is going to be processed, decision-making. Where is it going to take place? And I have a vision ahead. 6G enable these operations. And as a country, we are proud, we already have the 6G vision statement in front of us. And it's a commendable work done by the government organization and releasing it in the open domain, saying this is our vision. It's a commendable work. And with the vision in front of me, I find this wonderful opportunities which have this. High-speed mass data transfers, applications encompassing autonomous vehicles, virtual reality, AI-powered command and control systems. These are the opportunities. So, what are the changes? The changes expected to have the transformative effects on doctrine, our operations, our battlefield conditions. How do China and the US, how do they look into this? Similar but slight differences. Cross-domain communication networks, surveillance and capabilities, large-scale big data processing, more devices, multiple frequencies, large bandwidths, integration of AI and machine learning, continuously learn and improve decision-making. That learning, we talked about the AI algorithms. Somebody was saying algorithm, do we have a fixed one? Do we have a learning one? Is there bias there? Yes, no. Virtual and extended reality training, education, real-time visualization. This is the China's national defense news. What does the Pandayan say about it? How are they looking of 6G in the future operations? Contested logistic, joint fires, joint all-domain command and control. And the key last bullet on this particular thing is the information advantage. This is a challenge for all of us. Information advantage. Now, the holistic management of C4 resources, the joint optimization. The joint optimization is unique. We call it the C4, and instead of this, it's the communication, computation, caching, and the control. The keywords are the communication and computation. And take videos, send the data, edge cloud, learning algorithms, detect anomalies, take decisions, implement. This is my OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and act. So where is the key performance indicator? The key performance indicator is the end-to-end delay, E2E. And which are the two factors? Is the computation and the communication time. So, the carriage and the content, both are being promised as we are evolving in 5G and we are looking at the vision of 6G. how best we optimize this particular thing. This slide has been taken off from the 6G vision document, which is there. So we have now 3-4 bands, and what Mr. Christopher covered was wonderful. We are going beyond 30 gigahertz. We are talking about the V band. We are talking about the E band. We are talking about 90 gigahertz, which are there. Now, these are in the realm of academia. I'm not sure how it rolls out, how it proliferates, how exactly it comes out. But my challenge is here. The sub-gigahertz band and the mid band. This is the challenge. Why it is a challenge for me? This is the place where we function. This is the place where we function. And this, how do I continue functioning when we are having the new technologies coming up? This is a challenge for all of us. This is at the mid band. This is another one, 7 to 24. What Mr. Manoj was highlighting, this is a wonderful band and a lot of opportunities. Yes, I support him. It's a wonderful band, but we have something existing working there. How do I change? A small change in the previous slide has led us to a cascading actions which I feel will take 5 to 10 years because we have systems running in that. There has already been told a decision taken. And the slide which I showed about Srinagar getting flooded, a small change in the frequency band because of the auction which has taken place recently in the 800 megahertz band. A small change took us, say, 25 days to 1 month to implement that small change of a live living system when everything was available. When everything was available. So these are the challenges in front of us. So if we've seen the challenges, we've seen the opportunities, how do I help out and how do I work? These are the recommendations. Leveraging indigenous 5G testbed experience for 6G. Military College of Telecommunication Engineering, MCT MAU, is a center of excellence. Is a center of excellence for 5G. We've got a testbed. We can optimize, utilize this particular institution which is there. Ambient sensing. We got detachments right from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, from Bhuj to Bongaigaon. We got detachments. How best we can optimally utilize for this ambient sensing. Data set types and volumes. That slide which I showed with the 6 gentlemen. We got data types. These are live things. We can actually test out. We have got AI and so many algorithms being talked about. It requires data. The test proof of concept implementation, user-defined virtualized air interface, HAPS, high-altitude platform systems, tactile internet, multi-platform next-generation networks. These are things that can be utilized in a place where it will help. And why I'm saying it's going to be a win-win situation. The adaptation gap will be minimized. The adaptation gap. This is a win-win situation for all of us. So, from the vision, which has already been given to us, a wonderful work done by Ministry of Communications, we're already into the mission. How do we execute it? Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Brigadier Sanjay Raval, for giving that in-out about how the 6G should be and the recommendations. Ladies and gentlemen, now I request General Dr. S.P. Kocher, who was earlier Signal Officer in Chief, now the Director General, CUI. Sir, General Kocher.
Script. So let me first congratulate the organizers, and I must also congratulate the Government of India and the industry, telecom industry, in the manner in which they're propagating 5G and rolling it out. one of the questions which was given that it will be asked sometime, so I'm going to address that question. It will be simpler for me. Are we ready for an auction? So this is something which will be interesting to you also, but which has no specific answer. I'll tell you why. There are a few ingredients whenever we proceed towards an event like auction of spectrum. And those ingredients are, currently, do we have enough inventory of spectrum? Secondly, going forward in the near future, do we require more spectrum? Do we have use cases to monetize that spectrum? And thirdly, do we have use cases to ride on the spectrum? So because rolling out networks for the sake of rolling out networks has no meaning. Let me take each one of them separately. Do we have adequate spectrum today? No. Answer is very emphatic, no. For the Indian conditions to roll out 5G effectively in the manner it should be rolled out, we require 2 gigabits of spectrum for the type of environment which is prevailing, for the type of number of operators that we have, and that has been statistically proven. What do we have? 800 megabits. We are short of 1200. So we definitely have a requirement going forward, and that is the reason why COI has been asking for this additional spectrum of 1200 megabits in the 6 gigahertz band. And taking a cue from what Mr. Christopher said, I would request him to have a relook at the recommendations that were made. Because in 5G, with the type of capacity and the type of speeds that will be available, is there really a need to offload traffic onto Wi-Fi, which will be the preferred mode of carrying data? Won't it be mobility? That will be preferred. And if we can have the correct type of 5G across the country, ubiquitously, it will happen. This is one. Second is, do we have use cases? At this point of time, nowhere in the world we have use cases which can be monetized. We don't have a killer app for 5G. But my sense is the use cases will develop from India, and the world will adopt it. Because India is at the crossroads of a developed country and a developing country. So the requirements of the entire world will be met from here. That is my feel. Till the time we don't have that, we have to lay out an infrastructure which is robust and which can support other verticals to grow on the telecom foundation. And for that, we require support of the government in terms of finances, in terms of the cost that comes on us to roll out networks, and coming specifically to a point, the cost of spectrum. If we are going to continue with the same algorithms of determining cost, it may not be cost effective for the TSPs to roll out networks, because we will not be able to monetize these networks in the next few years. It will happen, but it will happen after some time. So my request to the government and the industry at large here is to really look at, don't miss the woods for the trees. Look at the country's benefit and see that the government and the industry have to stand shoulder and shoulder as partners to roll out a robust telecom network which can be utilized by the other sectors. By looking at telecom only as a golden goose and saying that I will milk whatever money we can from telecom at this point of time, as we've been used to, may not be the correct approach. The approach would be to look at it longer time and see how much more benefit will come if we let the other sectors, automobile, medical, agriculture, you name it, it'll all have applications. And the way they will grow, the way their productivity will grow and increase the country's GDP and contribute to the coffers of the government is something which we must look at, and therefore see that we jointly roll out telecom networks which are robust. I think I'll stop here because this is something which I had to say something, so I have tried to talk about the current situation which is prevailing and of the near future. 6G I will answer once questions are thrown at me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request Mr. Amit Mawa, Head of Marketing and Corporate Affairs, Nokia, to address the gathering.
A very good afternoon to all of you. And it's an honor to be part of this esteemed panel. Maybe I'm not the youngest, but in all respects, I feel I am the youngest amongst all these people. I have mentors here sitting, Mr. Dua, Khocharji, and Anilji sitting there, who have been mentors for us. And of course, Christopherji, who's an encyclopedia on spectrum, and Brigadier Rawal. I enjoyed your presentation so much. I have taken notes, and actually I want to take a copy of this because I want to read all the books that you mentioned. But it's a very hard-hitting presentation if somebody really analyzes that and the amount of work that you put in to bring it together in a very, very interesting format. And Ravi, of course, we have lived through this generation for the last 27 years in India, rolling out 2G to 5G. So my presentation number one is very colorful because this is the new Nokia, which is rebranded and it's got very vibrant colors. So I hope you will enjoy it. But what I will talk about is the discussion here is 6G. But I think all of us, to some extent, maybe understand what 6G is. But what I'll try to do here is, and I'm not an expert, okay, so I've also prepared myself for this talk because there is no expert right now on 6G because nobody knows what 6G is going to be. But I will try to say and do or show you the what, how, and when of 6G that is probably going to unfold in the next years to come. And before that, let's see what has been the evolution of networks. So we had the 2G and 3G networks, which were primarily connections. Okay, you first time got mobility, first time got a connection on your mobile phones, and we've seen that generation go through. Then came 4G, which was about information, it was about sharing, it was about data, it was about also unleashing social media. And then we got entrenched into, broad data and broadband becoming our lives. 5G, which is still being unrolled and unveiled in India, is what is being talked about as the next industrial revolution. So things like Industry 4.0 or many other related use cases is what 5G is perceived and hopefully will deliver in the next coming days as the use cases establish. But 6G is about this amalgamation of digital, physical, and human worlds. And I will explain this in the most simplified way that I understood to all of you in the next coming slides. So don't go with the language, but it's going to be an interesting thing of understanding what really it is meant by physical and human worlds coming together in a digital format. So this slide, I think all of us have seen for more than a decade. When I used to start marketing 5G and now 6G is coming, so I am doing my job here also. But when we started talking about this triangle, everybody knew. There was capacity, reliability, and scalability, millions of devices to be connected, huge capacity, and this was the promise which to some extent is getting delivered by 5G. So we were talking about 20x traffic increase, we were talking about 100 Gbps of speed, 1 GB per user kind of throughput, milliseconds of latency, and then more than 10 million devices per square meter that could be connected or would be connected on 5G. And so this is till now. This is what 6G does, or it is envisaged or being researched to do, to add these three new dimensions to what we already have on 5G. Besides capacity, scale, and reliability, 6G promises to add sustainability, digital inclusion, and security and privacy as three key elements of what the networks of the future will deliver. Sustainability, I think there was a question in the last panel about it also, really what sustainability means. Yes, sustainability means reduction in carbon footprint, and it promises that 50% of energy consumption of networks will reduce, or at least the research is going in that direction as to how you can create more efficient networks. But sustainability is much more than that, I would say. Digital inclusion, and the digital inclusion in 6G, which is being researched, is about three key elements. It's about accessibility, affordability, and consumability. So now the whole vision of 6G and all the people who are talking about 6G are looking at how the networks can be cheaper, more accessible, and at the same time develop use cases which will change lives for the future. And of course, security. I think Brigadier Rawal already mentioned that in his presentation. I've learned a lot in that presentation. Defending networks, the battle of the future is digital. I think these are things which at least there is a research or there is a discussion in 6G as to how these can be addressed with the new technology, which up till now, till 5G, to some extent have been there, but take it to a new paradigm shift. On the spectrum bands, I think a lot has been already said, but just to again give you an overview of different types of spectrum bands and how they are being consumed right now, and what is the potential of spectrum bands. And I'll not talk about all the technologies which are going on, but just specifically for 6G, and I know the challenges that Brigadier Rawal brought out on the main 6G band, which is 7 to 15 gigahertz, which is being right now being discussed to be harmonized for 6G, or going beyond into the 92 to maybe 175, or even some people are saying 250 or 275 gigahertz, and a lower band, which is being also very actively discussed, which is this 472, 694, which is, So in all new technologies, there is an endeavor to harmonize a low, mid, and the high band, and I think that's where, so I won't spend too much time on this because this is a deliberation topic, and I think in the India 6G vision document, it is being discussed, and at the same time, there is a lot of discussion and debate happening on this. So what is 6G going to bring from a technology point of view? So I told you those three dimensions of new dimensions, but besides these new tech dimensions, I think what is the constitution of 6G mainly going to be from is spectrum, more spectrum, and harmonized spectrum. Artificial intelligence, which was debated a lot and discussed in the last panel. Security, trust, privacy, we just talked about. Cognitive networks, architecture, again related to artificial intelligence and how networks of the future will become more cognitive. But I think there are two very interesting pillars in 6G, which I think you all probably need to understand, which is network as a sensor and extreme connectivity. And I will spend maybe five or two minutes on both these discussion points. So what is network as a sensor? I don't know how many of you got a chance to visit Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. I know General Kocha was there and Ravi was there. And we did the first demo of a prototype 6G in our booth in Nokia. And what that demo was, I'll just explain to you. There was a wall, probably half the size of this wall, where there was a big panel of LED. And in that panel, there was a piano. And there were some hidden base stations somewhere. Now, the use case was, and it was just a demonstration, was that when a person walks through that galley, that whole, you had created like a corridor kind of thing. When you walk through, there is no sensor on the floor, there is no sensor on the body, but as you walk through that corridor, you could play the keys of the piano as you walk. And you could go back and you could go forward and you could play the whole piano. So the network is sensing you without you having any sensor, which is within you or installed somewhere. So you become immersed as part of the network. And I have to read this because it's a great statement. 6G will give our networks the ability to sense. By bouncing signals of objects, networks will determine what's there, how things are moving. And the potential, even when they are made of, the networks become our sixth sense. And this is the promise, or this is the way 6G is being thought about. Extending our awareness beyond our immediate surroundings, the sensing capability can be used to map digital versions of physical world by interacting with the digital twin. So we can extend our senses to every point of the network. So there is this whole concept about metaverse and digital twin, and I think 6G is trying to bring that into reality, how you can get immersed in the network. So I think that is the big change from the current use of networks up to 5G and what 6G brings. So, I mean, if you start thinking about you being sensed in the network and the use cases, it's crazy, it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's something like science fiction, because tomorrow you could have in an old person having a sensor in his body, which the network is detecting, and if he falls, there is an alarm. So you, without really being, you could have a car, like we are talking about autonomous cars, but there could be hidden curves where you can't see anything, but a car is approaching, and the network is able to sense an alert. So those are the kind of use cases. I mean, from defense point of view, you have a foggy environment and you know a battleship or a intruder is getting into your territory, and you are able to sense it without having any sensor installed in that person, because that's the enemy for you, and take corrective action. So those are the kind of things which are being thought about in 6G, and it's fascinating and extremely, extremely interesting, and it can go on and on in terms of what 6G can deliver. The other thing which is also very interesting in 6G, which is probably not talked about here, is this ability of the network to what they call Network X. There's a terminology that we use in Nokia for 6G when it comes to. So we are saying that whatever a wired connection, the kind of latency, throughput, wire is always wire. It is point to point, it is very efficient, you cannot beat it. So can wireless become as good as a wired network? And if that happens, then you could have everything becoming so much more efficient. For instance, you could have robots in your factory, and if inside the robots you will still have a wired robot, right? Because his hands and his movement and his whatever he is doing it has to be wired, because you need that kind of latency. So if that can be executed without in a wireless fashion, you could have unlimited use cases of what. So this is what they are saying, and you could have smaller networks. It could be in this room. We know about private networks in 5G, but it is going beyond that, because it will not have a correlation to the parent network, and you have millions and millions of smaller networks. 6G timelines, I think that was also already discussed by Isam, the HC, in terms of roadmap. But yeah, 2024, 2025, the first standards becoming a reality. Then by 2027, the first standard, so start work is 24, 25, 27, the first standards become a reality, and by 2030 is when we probably start seeing some real 6G deployments. So what is the key elements, in my opinion, from India perspective, what we need to be aware from a 6G success point of view? Spectrum, 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 more spectrum, and harmonized spectrum. Collaboration, again, was discussed. Industry, academia, government, and various stakeholders who are there. Without this, I think India can play a bigger role, because we missed the bus in standardization of 5G, and we may be much more. And the last, of course, is investment. There are countries who have already started and putting a lot of money on the table in order to take a lead. I think that is something that the government of India needs to also take a lead. It's not only the industry, it's not only a Nokia or Ericsson or a Reliance or a Airtel who can make this happen. It is a collective effort, and everybody needs to pitch in order to be able to create collaborations to make research happen. A lot of work is happening. We are part of all these developments in 6G which are happening across the board. I won't go into details about that, but I think here from now to 2030 we have a huge opportunity. The 6G vision document is extremely a forward-looking. In fact, when I was talking to some of my global counterparts, they're saying that we first time seeing that India is taking a lead, because this has not happened in many other countries. So with that, thank you very much, and hope there was some gyan.
Thank you, Amit ji, for the colorful presentation. It's really colorful. Your logo looks beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, now from the vendor, now we move to the operator. That is called Jio or Jinedo. So here he comes, our Ravi Gandhi, President and Chief of Public Policy, Regulatory at Reliance Jio.
Thank you, Shashi. Thanks, Amit, for taking us to the imaginative world or fantasy world. So while we were discussing, he was presenting 6G. It was looking like some sort of a fantasy world in which we are going to be while we are still rolling out 5G. We have now 7 years with us, because if 2030 is the launch of 5G, probably 6G, then we have 7 years. We can, I think, play good role in standardization, good role in, I think, spectrum management, good role in technology development, R&D, academia. I think this is the right time. Shashi, thanks for kicking this debate of 6G, and I think we as India should take the lead in 6G. In 5G, we have not missed the bus. We are there. I think India contributed in few standards, and we are rolling out as fast as any other country now. The networks are rolled out. But when Amit was speaking, probably we forgot the use cases of 5G, which we are still waiting for to come. 5G is being rolled out, but I think the use cases, India has to still see the use cases for 5G. So few things which has changed from, say, 1G or 2G era to 6G era would be with every generation, the speed becomes 1,000 times. So from kilohertz to megahertz to gigahertz, and then TBPS, or sorry, GBPS to TBPS is the kind of speed which we think will be reaching. Whether humans can actually use that speed, even in 5G, GBPS speed, probably humans cannot use that speed. So it's the machines who will be using that speed. And with machines, the humans will have to control the machines. With 6G, probably I think machines would be controlling machines, and we'll be sitting somewhere in between at the mercy of machines. So that's the kind of communication network which I see, and till 2030, many of us would be there, and I probably will see this live. Few things which have been raised by previous speakers is about spectrum harmonization, and many things. Probably yes, that the moment you talk about wireless network, the first thing which comes in mind is the spectrum, and more spectrum is required for more and more speed. Whatever bands you bring in, Mr. Christopher, all would be consumed in 5G and 6G. All mid-band and millimeter wave or higher band, etc. Few things which have happened and happening with technology development is we are no more the kind of traditional 2G kind of a network where you build in a macro cell and a lot of people are around it and covered by that. So the network would be different. Here, the network would go closer and closer to the consumers or customers where they are. It's more of a kind of a wireline network where you are actually putting the base station very, very close to the consumer with the higher speeds, higher frequency spectrum. That is one. Second is the traditional networks used to be called as like access network, backhaul network, etc. So that is, there won't be any difference between any access or backhaul. So access is backhaul and backhaul is access. So those are the kind of networks which would finally we'll see the moment when we reach towards even in 5G also it has started all the integrated access and backhaul. The third is the cell sites will become very, very small and also become very, very large. So the cells would be a very micro, small cell and also the satellite cells. So the one 5G network or one 6G network would be served from the small cell as well as from the cell which is floating around in the sky in the form of satellite. So this all would be integrated to one network with one user device. The user is able to move from one radio network to the other radio network to the third radio network seamlessly without the need of any change of device. So that's the kind of network where we are moving towards. And the moment we know what kind of technologies are going to come, how the networks are going to span around, probably I think the policy also need to factor in all those technological developments. Rest, I think, on 6G, I don't have much to contribute at this moment of time because it's the vendors like Amit who have to develop technology and provide to the operators when it is matured so that it can be deployed for the consumers. As far as present networks are concerned, the 5G's network is being rolled out very, very fast, fastest amongst the world. And we expect that a lot of use cases, including the manufacturing use cases or so machine to machine or private network kind of a use cases would come in. While private network is a term which is very loosely used, there is nothing like private network. So earlier there used to be cloud over the network, now it's a network over the cloud. So how can there be a private network over the cloud when the cloud itself is a public cloud? So I think these are the kind of things, the technology is changing. So I think we also need to start thinking in a different way. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Raviji. Now, the last speaker, before we have one or two panel, there will be a topic on panel discussion, which will be moderated by Wing Commander T.R. Dua. We have the speaker from Madam Eva. Are you on the line? From Telefonica,
yes,
Germany.
Yes,
yeah.
I am.
So, over to you, Eva.
Good morning to everybody. It's a really pleasure to be with you and thank you very much for the invitation. Today I'm standing for my boss, Mr. Malik Rao, who is the CTI of Telefonica Germany. For me, it was really inspiring to see that despite of geographical difference and possibly different regulatory and legal framework, the views on the 6G are quite similar. And I will, in the first part, maybe reflect what my colleagues were previously sharing. There was a question raised, is it now time to talk about 6G? If you look in the 5G and the presentation what was done today is that yes, we roll out 5G, yes, we are able to roll out faster than we done with the previous technologies, but still it takes much more time than we initially anticipated. Use cases were not ready. We were not ready as industry to support. Therefore, start talking about 6G 7 years prior. We would like to be commercially ready is a proper time. Do we need one standard was another question raised in the round. And I do believe that we as industry have only one way forward, which is standardization, which is paying to us in efficiency and enabling us to provide more to our customer with less resources. Now, what we know in Telefonica Germany, and what is our current standpoint when it comes to the 6G? We believe that 6G will become not only terrestrial stations, but also from the space and airborne network. We believe that networks will be based on the service-based architecture with disaggregated network components, with automation functions embedded AM and ML both on the run side and the core side. And we do believe that application will and actively communicate with each other and with infrastructure directly in order to manage required resources. And most important, as being very active in GSMA association, we see network as a service, as initiative, which is actually helping us to set the pace toward the infrastructure which we will need on the end of this decade. Network as a service is actually ability to expose capabilities of our network on automated manner, introducing the network-wide slicing and edge compute, and improvement of it brings improvement of the great automatization in the networks management and orchestration. Now, what is the position of Europe when it comes to the 6G? So the first, it was, I think, mentioned by the first speaker, there is, European Union is funding 6G research project under the umbrella Horizon Europe by 250 million until 2025. And the focus is on the smart networks and services. Going one level, in the German federal government already put 700 million funds in order to do the proper research and development on the 5G networks and services from the perspective of innovations for the end user. Optimizing processes, enable digital twinning, data analytics, but last but not least, also ensure upskilling of personnels in the companies and enterprises. All of these activities in Germany are within the two programs centralized. One is called 6G platforms, and the second one is called 6G NM. Telefonica Germany contribute actively to this 6G platform program, which is run by Federal Ministry of Education and Research and has a very high social relevance. The program ensures that non-telco industries can contribute into the 6G leading applications and the requirements, plus enable harmonization across all active research projects by 6G. On the end, I will mention one more activities, what we are actively driving within the Telefonica group, as we do believe that as I already mentioned, that in the 6G, it's not going to be only about territorial, but also from space and airborne network. Therefore, we set up the program, which is called 6G Takeoff, where we are researching network and service architecture for the non-terrestrial networks. We focusing on enabling seamless integration of space and airborne infrastructure. With this, I will pause. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to at least briefly share you the perspective from Europe/Germany/Telefonica.
Thank you, Ms. Eva, for your kind words on the 6G. Thank you so much for giving the input. So now I hand over the mic to Dua Saab for moderating the 10 minutes on the 6G topic. as General Kocher said that he will answer only in the panel discussion on 6G. So over to you, Dua Sahab. Can we have the mic?
Thank you very much. Having heard the eminent speakers addressing spectrum, global standards, and many more issues, and 5G. Most heartening to listen to was Brigadier Rawal. It looks like that the military application and usage of this, they are far ahead of the curve, I think. Thank you so much for giving us insight into that. Thank you. Now we heard about many things about this. I got just 2-3 things which I just want to leave it to my eminent speakers. One is the energy part of it, and the second is the security, and the third one is the interoperability part. Now, as you expect that the 6G is expected to have significantly higher data rates than 5G, which would mean energy which is much more required than 5G. On the security side, again, while with the increasing number of the connected devices and the growing importance of data, security will be a major concern for the city. And lastly, the third issue, which I leave it to my eminent panelist, the interoperability. With the growing number of wireless technology, will it be important for 6G to be interoperable? As I am informed by Shashi, can I hand over to General Kocher to address one of the issues at least, whether energy, security, or interoperability?
Thank you so much, Mr. Dua. See, security has always been a concern. I will step back a little bit and see the evolution of networks. If you see, when we were in 2G, we had one-to-one communications only, and that was limited to the device. We went from there to 3G. We got internet in our device. So apps started coming in. So that made a huge difference. And we could increase the speed at which we could communicate with others. And we started using data to communicate. Went into 4G, there was an enhancement of what 3G brought to us. And in 3G, we were thinking with the cap of 2G and planning 3G networks. Hence, 3G didn't last too long. We went into 4G, and that is where actually we started using internet in our hands. Come to 5G, a new generation has come in, where we have flexibility, adaptability. Machines are talking to humans, humans are talking to machines. So a lot of flexibility has come in. And the network has expanded. Network is now partly in your pocket as part of your device, right? Coming to 6G thereafter, it will be an enhancement very much like what 3G to 4G, from 5G to 6G. This is the way I look at it. The difference between the two is that there are no fixed boundaries of networks in 5G and 6G. They are expanding, contracting as the situation demands. And therefore, the old method of providing security as an overlay to networks, we were up to 4G. We knew the parameters. We knew these are the technical parameters in which the network is going to function. We knew the capacities of the networks, and the flexibility had to be manipulated manually or automated, but it took time. Now it will be instantaneous in real time. 5G will be able to give what the user wants. Now with this expanding and contracting network, if we continue providing security in the manner which we are used to, of creating security layers and then overlaying it and integrating it with the network, that may not work. The reason why I'm saying that is security has to be of the same caliber and of the same genre of what it is protecting. If you overlay a security layer, which at times is larger than what it is protecting, and at times it is smaller than what it is protecting, it will not work. Second reason is with these networks, with 5G and 6G networks, the input vectors are all attack vectors. A small sensor in the part of, which is attached to a network is as major a challenge to the network as a human being is, or as the core is. So the attack vectors are going to be humongously increased. So with all these parameters put into place, and 6G is going to see even much more than that. With all this thing put into place, we are also saddled with a problem that to achieve flexibility and adaptability, we are increasingly dependent on software, including AI. So the entire network now depends majorly on software, which itself is susceptible to security breaches. At this point of time, we think of application security, we think of network security, we think of data security. I think this is something we have to change. We have to go into end-to-end security. And to provide end-to-end security, we will have to build security into the systems right from the drawing board. Maybe industries may have to merge. Maybe the telecom manufacturers and the IT security guys will have to sit together along with businesses and decide what type of security is going to come into play. So it's a new paradigm of security that we are going to see, and the sooner we realize this, the better it is. We cannot sit tight wearing a 4G cap and plan 5G networks or 6G networks. We have to get rid of that cap. Fortunately, we have started moving in that direction. But all the applications that people have been talking about are easily met by 4G also. So where is that killer app which is native to 5G? That is something which will come if we wear a 5G cap. And that is something we have to wear not only for network planning, but also for security planning, right from the drawing board upwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach Saab. Due to the paucity of time, I'll just request each one of my speakers to just say in 1 minute whatever you feel like to saying on the energy, security, interoperability, so that we wrap up this. Over to Ravi. You have just 30 seconds.
Your time starts now.
Your time starts now.
Digital inclusion. I think one dimension which has been added, I don't know what the purpose of that is, but digital inclusion.
Thank you. Over to Brigadier Rawal.
With the time limit given, I have only one point. When we were in the academy, they said, as a junior, 2 rules apply. Rule number 1, the boss is always right. Rule number 2, rule number 1 refers. So my boss has already told something about security. I cannot differ on that.
Thank you so much. Over to Christopher.
Yeah, security is one of the cornerstones that is being devised under 6G. I mean, whatever has been shown here already, that factor I think is already there into that system. That is as far as my understanding goes.
Yeah, Amit.
I've already said a lot, but I think collaboration, harmonization, and above all, support from government can only make 6G happen. You have heard 700 million, 500 million, 1 billion government spending. I mean, without research and that kind of effort to be given, I think we need to do a lot.
Thank you, Amit. We have our friends from ETSI and Telefonica. Let me just ask ETSI, as it looks like, as I heard, is that 3GPP and ETSI seems to be very neutral on the standards for 6G. What are your views, and when do you see this standard coming out? By the 5G, we have now a single standard available. Over to you.
Yes, as you rightly mentioned, we are quite neutral. We have a very diverse membership whenever it comes to ETSI or 3GPP coming from the different regions, from the different industries. So this is I would say a very natural position to have is to be completely neutral and let the standards making be industry driven and contribution driven. The standards are made to answer industry needs, customer needs, so it is not up to the standardization organizations to define what 6G should look like or the timeline. Should be definitely driven by the industry and by the market. The market dictates when the needs are there, what are the use cases that we need to answer to, and what the industry and operators needs and are. So we have been very neutral in the 5G. And all the previous generations, actually, it's not only all the standard makings. We have been very neutral on this. When it comes to the 6G, I just want to go back to the last slide I presented and the need for having a one global standard for the 6G. What made 5G a success, in my opinion, is the fact that we have one global standard. And this is one thing in the 3 points you mentioned, interoperability is key. And to have interoperability standard is also key, and having one global solution is definitely key. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'll request Madam from Telefonica. As usual, the women have always the last word. So I hand over to you to give the last word. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the last word. I will address intercompatibility between different generations and would urge all of us to think carefully, do we need it and what we need it. In Telefonica Germany, we already successfully retired 3G network, and we are currently all
Yes, madam, continue. Got disconnected? Yeah, she's back. Yes, continue, madam.
Hi, sorry, I don't know what is the last thing what you heard, but the message which I would like also to pose is that we need as industry also to focus on retirement of the technologies. And I'm happy to say that in Germany we already manage 3G and we are currently dealing with 2G, and with that we can also have additional resources in order to launch new technologies in the spectrum, but also we can support sustainability of the solutions which we are having in our landscape. Yeah. So thank you very much for opportunity to talk.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Thank you. So we come to the end of the inaugural session. So what I can hear from the top panelists, that spectrum, and the ecosystem. You know, the entire ecosystem has to come together to have a 6G, not like 5G we rolled out very fast, but Geo still rolling out as per Reviji. So 6G, we have enough time to discuss the entire ecosystem to come up with the launch of 6G. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will request the guest of honors, Christopher sir, to present the mementos to the distinguished panelists. First to Reviji. Come to the center, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to both of you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Then to General Kocher. Brigadier Sanjay Rawal. Dr. Isan, I will send your memento when Dinesh comes to ITSI headquarters. To Amit Marwa. Dua, sir. Now I request General Kocher and TR Dua together, Sri TR Dua together to present the memento to Christopher, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a lunch 1 hour and we'll join back exact at 2:15. Thank you. Yes, please. Colorful bouquet has to come. All
उसका सूरत ही नहीं आ जाना है इसमें जाके